As we explore Bhakti Yoga and all of the sources of various emotions, what this ultimately leads to is this emotional maturity and eventually emotional mastery. Now, I want to give some guidance around what this looks like. Emotional maturity is to be able to have good control and understanding of your emotions, and to be able to see past them. In a workplace, my own experience is that a good boss is able to really understand and to see past, the challenges that are presented to them and honestly thrown at them by their subordinates. They're able to navigate regardless of those things and see that, even though this person is emotional or reactive to the work that they're doing, that they can see clearly that the boss can see clearly that, this person means well and they want to do a good job. And so they're able to guide the conversation very patiently and very deliberately to productive ends. So that would be, somebody that's emotionally mature. Now, there's a lot of information out there about emotional maturity in general. So that's just kind of like a sliver of it. But I really wanted to point to this evolution of emotional mastery. I believe that emotional mastery is relatively unique to yoga in that we want to be able to understand the full breadth of our emotions and to understand these maps as they've been laid out before you. So as you explore all of these emotions, you can understand what drives them and what activates them and what causes them to stir up in you and maybe drive behavior or speech or even thought processes. Once again, we aren't looking to harness and push down emotions or to hide them. It's about understanding them really well so that we can understand ourselves, the full breadth of who we are, in all of our complexities and all of our good and negative qualities. A big difference in the emotional streams, those quote unquote negative emotions, and the divine virtues, the quote unquote positive emotions, is that the emotional streams occur naturally. They're like hardwired into our system. And it's so easy to see this with children, right? When you look at a toddler, they have an unbelievable desire. It's really obvious. They will tell you what they want and what they don't want, whether it's through cries or behavior or when they start using their words. And with that, when you watch a child or a toddler, you'll be able to see that not only do they have strong and unbridled desires, but they have unbridled attachments. They want what they want because they want it, and that's it. And they hold on to it and they're protective of it. And when you get in the way of those things, you'll see these other primal emotions come out pretty quick. It comes, anger comes, greed comes, jealousy comes, and pride comes. All of these things, they're very potent and they just flow naturally out of us. So in exploring the divine virtues, the approach almost has to be different. We don't just see these naturally from us right away and then we follow them back to the source. It's like a top-down approach. So if we are able to redirect our focus and our energy consciously through that consciousness, then we find this desire for truth, and we then start breaking down our ego boundaries. And that is the key. Once we're able to break down our ego boundaries, then what naturally flows from us is friendliness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. It doesn't happen overnight. It's not an easy transition. But the breaking down of ego boundaries is the biggest precursor to this, because once we're able to see that we're all connected and that we are all the same in very fundamental ways, it's very natural to feel happy for people and to feel friendly toward them and to want to alleviate their suffering and to see the big picture. The four are counterpoints to the four primary emotions. So the examples that I gave in the write-up of this is that when you see someone who is really happy, it's almost a natural thing for us to look at them and think, and feel jealous, and like, I want to feel that way. I want what they have. Whereas the counterpoint to jealousy is that friendliness, and that friendly behavior toward them is to just create happiness in them, to express yourself positively toward them and be happy that they are in a place that they are happy for themselves. Likewise, all of the others are counterpoints. So friendliness is a counterpoint to jealousy. Compassion, or karuna, is a really effective counterpoint for greed. Because when you see someone who is suffering and they need help, you can do one of two things. You can either help them or not. And if you choose not to, it's usually because you are hoarding something. You're hoarding time, or maybe resources, or your focus, or your energy, or whatever it is. And you're hoarding yourself in a way that says, no, I have what I need. I don't want to share it. When you express karuna, which is the counterpoint to greed, you're moving, and this isn't in the write-up, but compassion is a very useful word, and that's what we commonly say, is this divine virtue. But it's a little bit beyond compassion, because compassion is simply an ability to look at something and feel for them. Whereas truly karuna is about alleviating suffering. So with that in mind, the best interpretation that I can find of the word karuna is a word that I actually had to look up. It's ameliorate, which quite literally means to alleviate suffering, or to make something better over a long period of time to alleviate someone's pain and suffering. So that's truly the essence of this. And when you alleviate someone's suffering, the idea is that we can do that without depleting our own resources. We don't have to feel the need to hoard ourselves. We can do that without corrupting ourselves, without depleting ourselves, and without harming ourselves. In a similar way, when you encounter someone who has a strong connection or is virtuous, a strong connection to a virtue is very close to the concept of being enlightened. They're a very, influential person, or they're very, confident and virtuous, and they're principled in a certain way. We don't want to fall into pride. We don't want to compare ourselves to them. Instead, we want to offer them joy. Joy is a very pure emotion that allows us to just be happy for other people and be in admiration of them, that they have been able to walk a path and transform themselves in a very meaningful way. Now, lastly is equanimity. Upeksanam is a very powerful thing that overcomes anger. Now, in the write-up, I wrote out kind of like the breakdown of the word. Upeksanam is really about, the idea is that the essence of the word, I should say, is about climbing a mountain so that you gain a larger perspective. I think that's really beautiful because it illustrates that you must do work. It's not easy to climb a mountain. You have to work and distance yourself from a situation to then gain a big perspective so that you can see that things are at peace. So you climb up a whole big mountain to look down on a very complicated situation, and it seems so small, it seems so minor. So that little bit of space that's created gives you perspective. Another really important essence of upeksanam, or of equanimity, is that when you see your problems today, if you were confronted with a major issue, you don't get angry about it. And that's why this is a counterpoint, is that you don't get angry at the issue because it's preventing you from getting what you want. You're able to see your problem as though it was a problem from 10 years ago. It becomes very minor, and you're able to access that and exercise that in the moment. So when you're in the next argument that you happen to be in with somebody, that's my suggestion. Is this going to be something that you're going to remember 5 years or 10 years from now? And is it going to be important?